Okay, mate, there's absolutely only one place to start. It was the big game of the weekend at the Emirates. Arsenal hosting Liverpool. Okay, before we get into any kind of detail, Robbie Mustoe, you weren't in studio this weekend. I know you were watching at home and copious amount of notes. But I want you to give me a sentence on your takeaway from this game. What was your biggest takeaway from a 3-1 win by Arsenal, a dominating Arsenal in the first half, conceded a late goal, had some disappointment, came back. Liverpool didn't quite play at the fluent best, even Klopp. But what's your takeaway, mate? What's the thing that you might hold for the season on that game did this?
I'll try and do it in one sentence. And that one sentence would probably be, Arsenal are not going anywhere. They're right back in the race, Rob. That's kind of what I feel like. I thought today was a defining game, particularly for Arsenal, given the vibe a little bit, given the recent results a little bit, and being a little bit off the pace. This was a time to get back on track. And everything from the first whistle really to the last, Arsenal were pretty immaculate. The own goal, of course, was scored by Gabriel just before half-time, was really the only negative part of it. Other than that, the way they started the game, even the lineup, Rob, and, you know, there's a couple of big calls from Mikel Arteta. A couple of big calls going for Kai Havertz up front. Yeah. Jesus not ready to go. There's Nketiah, there's Trossard that could play a false nine. He continues to go with Kai Havertz. And Kai Havertz was involved in the first goal. And what I'll say before I get too much further into this, Rob, is, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Kai Havertz. I'm not his biggest fan. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, in this game, he worked like I've never seen him work before, unless I'm not watching enough for that side of him. Yeah. He played a false nine, so the up front. Yeah. He worked back, he worked his socks off, Kai Havertz. And I tell you what, fair play from wide areas defending to central areas defending, Rob, to running in behind to closing down. He's got some engine, you know. He's got some engine. I'm not a huge fan of his finishing quality or sometimes his involvement and sometimes his body language and sometimes his determination. All that being said, he worked really, really hard, and for that I give him credit. But I'll let you come back in, Rob. It was a good day for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. I like the change of system, by the way, but let me get, what did you think? Anything different to that?
The takeaways from it. I thought, I thought it was a huge day for Arsenal. I was stronger than maybe Tim and a few other people. I thought they lose today. They're not going to pull 8 games back in 8 points in 15. With City flying, with Liverpool then would have been flying, if they'd have won the game. My biggest takeaway was, Rob, that played brilliant football. Probably should have, the football deserved to be more than 1-0 up at half-time. They go in 1-1. My biggest takeaway was the reaction to the disappointment of going in 1-1. I always worry about, don't worry when Arsenal's playing well. And today, they were playing one of the best teams in the league and dominated the ball and pressed them in and won possession and looked more dangerous. But when a disappointment comes to Arsenal, as we saw last season, Rob, there's still for me a doubt about how this team might react. Now, I think they should be better, and I've often said, I think they learned from last year. Declan Rice makes them better. I'll talk about Jorginho in a little while, that his experience helps them in those situations. But I just thought it was a big day for Arsenal to get over a big disappointment that could have gone another way, and they ended up winning the game.
I thought there was smart game management in the second half, Rob. Yeah. Smart game management. The first half, I think everybody who watched that first half knows that Arsenal were really at it. Yeah. They pressed Liverpool really, really well. They dominated because of that. Liverpool, and I know Jurgen Klopp was frustrated at the end about how they didn't play football. Yeah. Well, they weren't allowed to play football. That's all down to Arsenal's pressing. Now, jumping forward to half-time, you concede that goal, kind of a mix-up defensively with the own goal. And second half was different. Liverpool started much more on the front foot. And what I liked about Arsenal, Rob, is there were periods there that they were kind of okay with that. I was watching with my son, as I often do at a weekend, and the shape of Arsenal was really good. And they basically said, you know what, you're having a bit of a reaction after half-time. Yeah. Your tail's up a little bit. This is okay. and we've got this. And we defended really well. The shape defensively for Arsenal was not different. When they, again, like, without the ball, they're pretty much 4 at the back, 4 across midfield, 2 up front that defend. It's Havertz and Odegaard today. They're a bit different in possession because Rice played alongside Jorginho with Odegaard, kind of centrally as a number 10. That's kind of different. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. But second half, Rob, they got their opportunities. The long ball over the top, the mistake from the goalkeeper and from Van Dijk. They go 2-1 up. And they managed the game really well. It didn't feel like they had to continue with the pressing or continue with the good football. They were okay saying, you know what? And that, I just think that was smart. Yeah. And I like to see teams that can do both things. They can high press, they can play their football. And other times, when they realise the time is right, they can sit behind the ball and say, oh, okay, they're having a bit of a go here. Let's just sit in there and get a good shape because something good can happen on the counter-attack. It's exactly what happened. I thought it was a really nice job of the manager, picking a team, changing the tactics, and like you said, Rob, having the patience and the mentality to play a little bit differently in the second half, but knowing that was the best way to manage the game. If they'd have opened up, right, Arsenal, I'm sure of this, and Arsenal a few years ago, if they get on the front foot and they get them fullbacks flying or inside and they try and expand and play their best football, Liverpool would be like rubbing their hands and like they'll pounce, they'll counter-attack. They didn't do that. They didn't fall into the trap of that. And I thought it was really well managed from Arteta and the team. Yeah,
it was interesting because we got Arteta at the bench. He was pitch side with the guys over in England. Did a brilliant job today, the guys pitch side. And they got Mikel Arteta. And obviously he's in a good mood. And Lee Dixon's obviously a former Arsenal player, so he's got huge respect that he carries there. But he was very open, Arteta, and talked about how he spoke to his players about, okay, We've had a disappointment, and they're going to come have a little go at us. We have to expect them to come. We've got to be prepared to be ready for that. We've got to be prepared to take what they do and then go again. And it almost played out to exactly so. I thought for 15 minutes, Liverpool looked lively. You'd expect Klopp got into him. We knew probably changes would come. Núñez would get on. Didn't know how long that would be. But I thought there was a real control about Arsenal, which I think is a step further from where they were last year. Last year, Arsenal would have come flying out second half to prove a point. Right, we've just conceded, we're going to get 2-1 up. And they'd have opened up and Liverpool would have probably won 3-1. But there's a different maturity. And I have to go to my underappreciated player of the week because I can't talk about the Arsenal performance without talking about Jorginho today, Rob. And I was a little surprised that he ended up winning the player of the match from, I think, our partner Sky in England. And I said to Rebecca before any of that, I said I'm going to name a player. Probably most people won't mention him. He's not going to be a headline maker. He won't be man of the match. But Jorginho, Rob, we have a tactical cam in the studio, which is a great view. I mean, a full 360-degree view of the whole game, and you can see the shape and the people. I think Jorginho's game management, to your point, what he did with the ball, what he did without the ball, what he was urging people, what he was not. He was an absolute... Honestly, I kept writing notes down, Jorginho this, Jorginho that. When they were pressing, he was the one who was setting the triggers and telling people to go. When they were sitting off, he was talking to people, getting Saka in and Martinelli on that side to do their jobs. I just thought he's one of those players, Rob, who is coming to Arsenal, doesn't play every week. Mikel Arteta said trains like a beast every day. He's been a winner internationally and at club level. He's obviously a huge influence on the team. Declan Rice talked about learning from him and him being a mentor to him. I just think Jorginho's one of those players who fans possibly don't understand his value on a match day and during the week. I think Mikel Arteta does, and I thought it was a day to recognise the roles that those people play on big days like today. Yeah,
it's a great shout, Rob, and I'm with you. If you ask Arsenal fans, I'm just going to jump in there, but let you finish there about, some Arsenal fans are not sure about him or whatever. What it is with Jorginho, and I think I tweeted out something like, his downside is if he's left on his own in the middle of that midfield and there's a counter-attack situation going on and he is not very quick and he's not very physical. Now, you put him in a team that's compact and you put him next to Declan Rice, all of a sudden I'm liking that midfield double pivot, is what they say now. The two central holding midfield players that are side by side. I mean, Odegaard is a little freer, a little bit more advanced to receive the ball. They've still got Saka right, still got Martinelli, and Kai Havertz as well, by the way, Rob. And again, we don't want to get too tactical in this. Yeah. He came into midfield. Yeah. On their left as you look forward, and Odegaard sort of pulled to the right. So I think you indicated this little box thing they had, and that was a deeper box. That wasn't a high up one behind another. And so it's a little tweak that I just think you make those little changes, and we notice it. Well, that's different. Yeah. And Liverpool, if Jurgen Klopp, like, oh, hang on a minute, I thought Odegaard was right, and we expected Rice to play the left 8. No. Yeah. I love those two together. You get good football. Good defence. Rice can still get forward, Rob. But me and you both played in the middle of midfield with two players, and one can get in the box when it's on. So Rice can still do that. So I liked it from the tactical side of it with the two holding players. I feel like Arsenal and Arteta needed to do something different. It'd gone a little bit predictable, the way that their football hadn't changed over the last couple of years. And this doesn't seem much, and it's not much, but it's just something a little different. And I thought that was really good. And he absolutely had a good game, Rob. The only thing he can't do is defend very well. But if they're compact and he's got Declan Rice next to him, then that mitigates that. And it worked out great. And you're right, because the camera, of course, I know it in there. You can see him cajoling and pushing. Because sometimes when the shot is the main camera, you don't always see that. Action, so that's really interesting that he's a lead. He's a leader. He's an Italian, mate. I mean, I played with some Italian players, and I've never. They're so professional and dedicated, and it doesn't surprise me that he's that sort of leader, the way that he organises on the field. Yeah.
Just before we have a quick word on Liverpool, because it wasn't a great day for them, and Jurgen Klopp was big enough to say that we didn't do. Just from Arsenal's point of view, the Havertz situation, whether it was for Jesus, we hear sustaining an injury wasn't fit. I think it was a knee that they talked about. But obviously not fit, not in the match day squad. So Havertz comes in, the choice, as you say, Trossard and Nketiah are the options. How does that feel moving forward, Rob, when Jesus is fit?
Well, it's a great question. It's a great question, Rob. And if I'm sort of being totally honest, I still think this is what's going to hinder them winning the title. I just do. I just think that I don't think Kai Havertz is the guy to win a title from a number 9 or a false 9. I don't know whether Gabriel Jesus has, though we talked on the last pod, Rob, about I read that he's changing his mentality about more goals from now on. We'll see when he comes back in there. Trossard, I suppose, is a real proper false 9. Maybe doesn't get the goals as well. So I even though it's been so positive about Arsenal, you look at that team, right? You look at those options in midfield, and you look at the wide players. Yeah. The options there. They are one blimmin' really good striker away from what I think is a champion team. I just think that one position, and I know that others can score and can fill the void a little bit, but I still don't think the other players that have done well can get the number of goals. I think there's going to be games, Rob, where Arsenal are not going to win games because they can't, because they push and can't find a way through. Push. I mean, they haven't got that extra few goals in the team that might mean, and I'm talking about title here. Yeah. I'm talking about this is, to win it all at the very top, which is going to be very difficult. So, I mean, going forward, let's see some more Gabriel Jesus, but just see if there's anything in this mentality he's talked about. I'm going to be much more focused on scoring goals, because if he does that and it works out, I mean, I'm sure it's not as simple as that, but that's interesting. Other than that, what are you thinking then, Rob? Are you thinking that you'd rather have somebody other than Jesus for the rest of the season in the 9 position?
Do you know what, Rob? I think sometimes let things play out, and if it continues to look as I mean, when Manchester City went false 9 with De Bruyne up there at one time and Foden and that, we all weren't sure then. Can you win a title without striker? Yeah. Maybe I tell you what else, Rob, I want to move to Liverpool just quickly to get your view on them. What I would say is with this team, it was good to see Martinelli back to something like form. I thought he was dangerous today. And that's a help. That's a bonus. If you're not getting goals centrally, but those two guys on the outside start, getting the goals again, that was good news for
it's
Arsenal.
Critical for them. Yeah, critical for them.
Let's quickly move to Liverpool. And just before we do, mate, I think it's right to pay our due to Conor Bradley, the young man, the fullback who lost his father a couple of days ago. I mean, terrible news, and obviously not part of the matchday squad. You know, after a brilliant week he'd had with his goals and his assists and his kind of announcement to Liverpool. You know, our thoughts with him and his family. You know, football pales into significance on something like that.
No, it's well said, mate. And I mean, such a young man to. I mean, I'm just hoping that he saw, you know, his son live the dream and score the goal and have the impact on Liverpool, you know, football club as what he has. So it's shocking to hear that, and so often triumph is followed by tragedy, and it's another situation like that. So, you know, I'm sure I'll bounce back. I'm sure the club and the manager, you know, are tremendously supportive. We know that of this football club. So he'll be back. But out the side, Trent Alexander-Arnold come in at right fullback for this game. Joe Gomez would prefer at left back. And it was a funny... You know what, Rob? You know, sometimes when we all say, and it's a cliche in football, you know, the first 5 or 10 minutes, you can kind of see how they are and how they're set. And Arsenal started very quickly. Liverpool started very sloppily. I thought there was Van Dijk. There was like a Trent. Remember the time Trent gave the ball, flicked the ball away? There was a sloppiness about Liverpool early on that was not the sort of the body language you want. Arsenal jumped all over them, and they couldn't get out. They couldn't play out. They tried it. They tried. They couldn't get the front players involved. They couldn't get the midfield involved at all. That is really restricting Liverpool when you press them high, and they haven't got the option over the top of Darwin Núñez early on, Rob. So it was an off day for Liverpool. I mean, we'll get into some details, but it was an off day. Of course, they missed their best player. I guess Jesus was out for Arsenal. Mo Salah's still not there. Dominic Szoboszlai, I think, suffered a hamstring injury, so he wasn't there. I mean, maybe they both can argue that there's players that were missing. But Liverpool, we don't often say that about Liverpool, Rob, in a big game, that they didn't really show up as you'd expect them to. And I think the team and the manager afterwards are pretty magnanimous in saying that was a deserved Arsenal victory. They didn't play well. They didn't handle the press well, and they made mistakes, big mistakes at the back.
Yeah, and in fairness to Van Dijk, he came forward as captain and held his hand up and said he should have dealt with situations better. And you know, after that first start in the second
Rob,
half,
let's can we just talk about that, Rob? Can we just go into that a little bit, because it's obviously 1-1. You showed it on the broadcast. It was a defining moment of the game. Yeah. And it was a simple ball over the top, which he got himself in a good position. Yeah, he was shielding the ball, and he saw Alisson charging off his line towards him. Now, I got the sense that you and Tim and a few others, and himself, to be fair, he could have cleared it. Yeah. But I think in the moment there, he looks up, goalkeeper's rushing out, he's real close to him. He tries to sort of get out of the way and let the goalkeeper deal with it, and Alisson messed it up. He missed the ball. Yeah. So I thought, in my opinion, the goalkeeper was more at fault for that goal than Virgil van Dijk. That's just me.
I tended to agree.
What do you think?
I tend to agree, but I'm sitting next to Tim, who's saying that's one where the goalkeeper should take charge, and if he comes, Tim said he's got to clear everything out.
Take it.
Yeah, take everything out. And he said, if you take Van Dijk, if you take he said, if you take your grandmother, she's there, take everything out, and everything goes. But I'm the same as you, Rob. And if I put myself in that situation, one of my coaches always said to me, the closer you get to the goalkeeper, the more chance of error. Kick the ball out. Kick the ball out. And maybe that's what he should have done.
But let me say something else, last bit on this, Rob.
Yeah.
It was also, in my opinion, a bad judgment from Alisson to fly off his line.
Yeah.
If he stays 10 yards away from his goal, Virgil van Dijk is goal side. He's in control. He could lay it back to the goalkeeper. He could dribble it out and play the ball out. But because he committed to that ball over the top, it became a panic situation. So for me, it was an Alisson error. And listen, he's a brilliant goalkeeper. He's been magnificent. But that was for me was more of an Alisson error. And then from there, Liverpool, as we said earlier, Rob, they drove at the game. Didn't really create too much. And Arsenal were like okay with soaking it up. And of course, Trossard scores. On the counter-attack. It just was a poor day for Liverpool, Rob, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Not a great day for Liverpool. Brilliant day for Arsenal. 3 goals, 3 points, and still very much part of the title race.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.